Welcome, I'm Darren, and I'll be your guide today as I look at 1998 Fleer Ultra football cards. 98 was the year that Fleer kind of cleaned up the idea for Ultra that they were going to run with. So in 1997, or I guess I should say leading into 1997, Fleer came up with an idea for Ultra that cleaned up the kind of the chaos that the set had because the set had always been evolving. In 91, they came up with an idea that didn't really work, so in 92, they refined it, and in 93, they did what they did the previous year, but made it a little bit better. 94, they rethought the model, and then 95, they rethought the model, and then 96, they rethought the model, and then in 97, they rethought the model again. But when I say rethought the model, basically you can see the relationship from 93 to 97 through the 94, 95, and 96 designs. But for 97, they took what they'd done in 94, 95, and 96, and they refined it to a point where it just made a lot of sense. Prior to the 97 year, the set was still kind of playing around as blocky. It didn't really work. But in 97, they came up with a really, really nice, elegant text style. Well, I shouldn't say text, almost a signature style of text for the player name. And they allowed that to be the strong design element because it needed to be something with the gold foil. And that signature style, which isn't a player signature, it's just kind of a fancy text approach, handwritten kind of a model. It just looked really good. And that basically laid out the template for how they were going to move forward with their card designs all the way through to the end. But it wasn't so much about the text as much as it was about the parallels. The parallels was the key, and the way that they combined everything together and made the card look, that was what Fleer Ultra would be from 1997 all the way to the end. And the variations you could see over time it's very obvious that they're all a part of the same model. You can just lay out a whole bunch of them and just look one after another, and they all absolutely, they don't just make sense, they all look like they're the same family, just slight variations on the same theme. And for the first 3 years, 97, 98, and 99, they had that handwritten text approach to the names that it would appear again later on, but those 3 years kind of had they were like their own little family. And of these three designs, 1998, the middle one, it has the most adventurous, the fanciest, and the hardest to read. And if there was going to be a Fleer Ultra card set to have difficult to read text that was just trying too hard, 98 was a great year to use because you didn't have to rely on the cards to sell themselves. This was the rookie year of Peyton Manning and Ryan Leaf. These packs sold themselves, or they were supposed to sell themselves. But also on top of that, these were going to be the rookie cards that Fleer Ultra was going to be known for. These were the cards everyone was going to be returning to, and so you wanted to have a really cool looking card, and 98's design was very much that way. The way these cards come across, they look gorgeous. They don't have the flashiness, though, that you would see in other sets. But for 1998, hey, look, this was a very pivotal year in cards because this was both the height and the beginning of the end at the same time. And Fleer Ultra felt that. This was the last year that we would see two series in Fleer Ultra in football. Well, not just Fleer Ultra. I mean, this was the last time that you would see that in Collector's Choice, which was also the last year for Collector's Choice. It would be the last time in SPX. This would be essentially the last year where we would have Series 1 and Series 2 in football for the simple reason that it was too crowded of a space. Too many card companies and too many card brands that were sold from each, or I should say different card sets sold by each of these different companies. So for the whole concept of having two series just didn't have any more room, if it even really did have much room leading into it. So Fleer Ultra, this is kind of like a grand last hurrah in many different ways. And among those is the fact that this is the last time we would have a Series 1 and a Series 2. We would have less inserts moving forward as well. But I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. So like I said, the card designs for this set they're really kind of nice. And the cards, since it's broken into Series 1 and Series 2, you can do different things in the two series. For Series 1, it's a bunch of veterans, and then it closes out with a whole bunch of rookies who are all in their college uniforms. The cards also very conveniently have a banner that says rookie on it, and it's wonderful that they did this because it allows you to know that these players who are in their college uniforms are rookie cards, they're not veterans. And then they close out Series 1 with a couple of checklists. And the way they did checklists in 1998 was they had a picture of a player on the front and then the checklist is on the back. So this was a departure from the standard approach that Ultra had continuously done, at least in football, where they always had a ghosted picture behind the text, which made the text kind of difficult to read, but you had a cool, different quality to these cards. Here they went with here's a card front with a player's picture on it, and on the card back, we're just going to have a checklist. That's how they did it. For Series 2, they had a bunch of veterans, and then they had a subset called 98 Greats. And these, kind of weird because they're looking at great players from the 1997 year, so they are, I guess, looking forward to the great players' years that they would have in 1998. Regardless, they had this subset, and then they had a whole bunch of rookies. But in this case, they had a lot of the rookies we'd seen in Series 1, but now in their uniforms. They also had a bunch of players who had not been featured in Series 1, so these were their true rookie cards. That's the way that the card set was, and that's the way that the card set ended. And I wanted to wait until now to talk about the parallels for a very specific reason. So, like I said, in 1997, they figured out how to make the parallels work. It was a 3-tier system. You have a 1 per pack gold card, and then you have a very difficult to get parallel that is their platinum, the ultra platinum cards. But there was one thing that was missing in 1997 that they fixed in 98, where the ultra platinum cards, now in 1998, they were all serial numbered. And the cards were serial numbered out of 98. And the reason that I wanted to make this distinction here is because that's the way that most of the cards are in the set. But for the rookies are different. These are actually serial numbered out of 66. So much more rare. Almost, well, they're basically at 2/3 the rate as the regular cards, the regular veteran cards. And that's the same for both the rookies in Series 1 as well as the rookie cards in Series 2. They're all serial numbered out of 66. But you can see here with these two cards that there is one very distinct difference between the two, which is that for some reason in Series 1, they used 3 digits for the serial number, even though there are no more than 98 numbers, which means there are only 2 digits. So in Series 2, they went ahead and they only used 2 digits for the serial number. Now, is this important? No. But it is a difference that they made between the two series, which is kind of interesting. And then the only other thing to mention about the set itself is they had an SP card not included in the set, but in packs they had a commemorative card for Reggie White. And this card is kind of, interestingly, they were talking about the bookending of his career, even though he wasn't anywhere, well, I guess I should say he wasn't anywhere near, but he still had quite a few years left in his career. But they were talking about the fact that he had, in the USFL, played a whole USFL season and then an NFL season, and then he had a really good Super Bowl. Now, Jim Kelly, you can't say the same thing in terms of both of those, and Steve Young, for a different reason, you can't say the same thing about with him. But at any rate, Reggie White, he did play a full season of the USFL and then a full season of the NFL, dominant in both. That was all in 1 year, and then, of course, he had a great Super Bowl because he's Reggie White, and he was in the Super Bowl, so of course he's going to have a great one. So that's what the card was commemorating, and yeah, there it is. So, like I said, since this was the last time that Ultra was doing 2 series of cards, they had a lot more inserts than you would be seeing in the years to follow. To an extent, it would change over time, but at any rate, in terms of the number of different card sets, insert sets that you would be seeing, this was the last time there was really a whole lot of them. And the first set is Canton bound. These are brushed metal cards, but they are solid gold surfaces. And it's a noble concept to do this, but it's so difficult to see these cards, to really read the cards well. So you got to turn it over to find out who the player is on the card back. I like the idea, I just don't like the execution. Fleer had been doing a great job with brushed metal cards that were so much fun, and here they just pushed it too far. But there they are. They also had an insert set for rookies called Caught in the Draft, And one thing I didn't mention to you about the main cards in the set, the veteran cards and the rookie cards in the main set, is that the signature has kind of it's almost an aqua teal colored foil for the player name. And that is embossed. So it is both foil and it's embossed on the regular cards in the set. Not deeply embossed, but there is some lift to it. Well, for these cards, they have red foil, but they do not have any embossing. Not that it's the most important thing in the world, but it is interesting to note that the difference between them. Then they have their damage incorporated cards. And these cards take a cue from the 1997 Fleer set where they had a rough surfaced cardboard cardstock. This doesn't have as rough of a cardstock as the 97 Fleer set had, but it is still a very rough surface. So it has a very different feel, kind of a papery feel, which is very distinct. You look at it and you really assume that white's going to be glossy, but it's not. But what makes it interesting is that most of what's printed on it is actually a foil surface. So it's the contrast of not just printing, but foil printing contrasted to the very gritty feel of the cardstock. Really kind of an interesting idea. And then they also had a set that is very difficult to, it's very difficult to miss. This is one of those few insert sets that stands out compared to anything, which is exclamation point. And in this case, it's an acetate card, and it has a kind of an exclamation point thing. It's something behind the player, but it is surrounded by this speckly effect of these dots of rainbow holofoil. Man, this card is lively. I mean, really, really lively. It is an impressive sight to see, and it really isn't unlike anything else you're going to find. These cards are pretty tricky to get. They are very popular because they're very, very distinct. So there's that. And then for some reason, they decided that they needed to introduce to the card world their Flair set. So they had a preview set of 98 Flair. Why they did this, I don't know, because 98 Flair is just 97 Flair with a slightly shorter set with more parallels. That's kind of the way that it ended up working. I guess that the 97 Flair set didn't sell as well as they would have liked, so they were advertising here in 98. Okay, sure, I guess. But at any rate, they are here in this set, and it's a nice little set. And then they also had their Indefensible cards. And Indefensible is a slightly textured foil surface of a card. And on the card back, obviously, it says who it is. But one half of the card peels open, or not really peels open, but folds open for a picture of the player hidden inside in a way that is really awkward. I don't get why they did this. I would have to say that this move is pretty cheap. It is completely indefensible. I think it's well titled. Yeah, I don't get it. I really don't know what they had in mind. There are a lot of cool things that you can do with this, but they didn't do that. A full wide open affair where it splits in half, or if you have two windows, those work really well. This it doesn't. So, oh well. Then, because rookies were the big thing in 98, they had another set where you get to see a bunch of rookies called Next Century. These cards are, okay, yeah, they're there. They are embossed, though. That is the one distinction that these cards have. But the card design itself is a little bit too busy. That's really kind of the problem that it has. And when you have a great rookie class like this, you really want to do something special. I think they could have done a whole lot more than this. But it's Fleer, and when they did a bunch of inserts, there were some that were just trying a little bit too hard. This is definitely one of those. Then they have their Rush Hour set. And Rush Hour cards, horizontal cards, you would think that this was about running backs, but it's not entirely about running backs. It's, yeah, again, this feels more like the 94, 95 filler approach to cards. You see some really, really great inserts that they had going on here, and then you have inserts like this, which are just kind of there. But speaking of really great inserts, we also have Touchdown Kings, and for Touchdown Kings, this is a fully die-cut card, and it's embossed. It's a very ambitious card. It is very distinct. It's really cool, unfortunately, because of how much it's die cut, it's one of those cards that can fall out of your hands pretty easily. It is a little bit dangerous like that. Fortunately, it's a very thick card with really good rounding on all the corners, so it's much less likely to get damaged, but this is one that can easily get away from you for what it's worth. And then they have 3 insert sets that are the last 3 insert sets that are looking at a whole bunch of different players. The first one is Ultra Stars, and this is a highly lacquered card. It has kind of a thicker quality, or it seems like it has a thicker quality. This feels more like a Topps Stadium Club card or a Topps Topps Gallery card. It really has more of that quality to it. It doesn't really feel like a Fleer card. Why they would have such a heavily lacquered card for Fleer, I don't know. I mean, with Flair it would make sense, but Flair is a much, much thicker card than this. So it's one of those cards that can actually throw you off if you're really familiar with cards from this time. It's their one time doing it. So yeah. They also had top 30, and for this it is, top 30 players. Again, a larger set, so they have a whole bunch of stars in it. And they have gold text down the side that has what looks almost like bullet holes through, I don't know, glass, I guess. I don't know what the concept was, but it is kind of weird to look at it and just go, okay, sure. And then the last set is Sensational 60, or 60, I think it's Sensational 60. This is a card set that looks like a parallel to the main set, and in a way it is, but it's not a true parallel of the set. It's more like what Action Pack did in their early years with their 24 karat gold cards. This is a standalone set. All of the cards have their own numbering, and while they look like the main cards in the set, they're treated kind of different. So you can look at them as a partial parallel of the set. It's not entirely the case, but these are definitely common enough that you wouldn't really see them as a true parallel. But they do look that way. So just so you know, the numbers are different, and then of course it has the gold foil logo. And like I said, this is the last time they would do 2 series, so moving forward, the card sets and the inserts are a lot more truncated. There's a lot less to talk about. So this is the last time I get to sit down and just chat about one set and have a nice luxurious space. So I'll probably be doing all the ones in the future grouped together in pairs. I don't know. I'll get to that. But I will be getting to those videos down the road. Now, if you haven't seen the lead-up videos for Ultra leading up to here, I've already done everything from 91 all the way through 97 for football. And, well, basically for baseball too, through 96. So I do encourage you to check those out if you haven't. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, definitely check that out, or definitely do that and ring the bell in order to be notified. And yeah, thank you very much for watching.